The most expensive bill you will ever pay in your life isn't your mortgage, it isn't your student loans, and it certainly isn't your taxes. The most expensive thing in the world is the cost of a childhood spent in survival mode. Most parents think bad parenting means physical abuse or total abandonment, but the truth is far more terrifying. The real damage, the kind that costs a child their future wealth, their happiness, and their potential, often comes from the quiet moments, the ignored questions, the subtle criticism, the emotional unavailability. Today, we are going to calculate the true cost of bad parenting. We aren't just talking about feelings here. We are talking about biology, economics, and the literal architecture of the human brain. By the time this video ends, you will see the receipt, and you will know exactly how to stop the debt from compounding. Let's begin the audit where it matters most, the hardware. When a child is raised in an environment that is chaotic, critical, or emotionally cold, their body makes a biological adaptation. It perceives the environment as a threat. To survive, the child's brain floods with cortisol, the stress hormone. Now, in small doses, cortisol is fine. It helps you run from a tiger. But when bad parenting is the daily reality, that tiger lives in the living room. The child exists in a state of chronic hyperarousal. Science tells us exactly what this does. It acts like acid on a developing brain. First, it enlarges the amygdala. This is the brain's fear center. Imagine a smoke detector that is so sensitive it goes off every time you make toast. That is the brain of a child raised by critical or unpredictable parents. They become hypervigilant. They become experts at reading facial expressions and tone of voice, not because they're empathetic, but because they're terrified. Simultaneously, that same toxic stress attacks the hippocampus. This is the engine of memory and learning. Studies have shown that children raised in high-stress environments actually have a physically smaller hippocampus. Think about the cost of that. We are talking about a reduced capacity to learn new skills, a reduced capacity to regulate emotions. We are talking about a child who walks into a classroom already at a biological disadvantage, not because they aren't smart, but because their brain is too busy scanning for danger to focus on algebra. This is the biological bankruptcy. You are taking a Ferrari engine, the immense potential of a human mind, and you are pouring sand into the gears every single day. Let's look at a specific mechanic, the freeze response. When a parent is the source of fear, a child cannot fight, they're too small, and they cannot flee, they are dependent. So they freeze. They learn to make themselves small. They learn to be invisible. They learn that having needs is dangerous. This invisibility might make them a good, quiet child at home. Parents might even brag about how easy they are. But this compliance is not peace. It is a survival strategy. And as we move into part 2, you will see exactly how this survival strategy transforms into a financial disaster in adulthood. The good child often grows up to be the broke adult. And the reason why is hidden in a psychological trap called the fawn response.
We have audited the brain. Now let's audit the bank account. The cost of bad parenting becomes undeniably literal when that child enters the workforce. Remember the child we discussed in part 1, the one who learned to be invisible to stay safe? That child is now 25 years old. They are sitting in a performance review. They have done all the work. They have exceeded every target. But when the boss asks, "Where do you see yourself in 5 years?" or when it's time to negotiate a salary, they freeze. Why? Because asserting themselves feels life-threatening. This is the fawn response in action. It is a trauma response where a person pleases and appeases others to avoid conflict. In the corporate world, this is catastrophic. A study on the agreeableness trait in earnings shows a stark reality. Disagreeable people, Those willing to challenge the status quo, ask for more and draw boundaries, earn significantly more money over their lifetimes. The child of a critical or controlling parent grows up with a deep-seated belief, I am lucky to be here. I shouldn't ask for too much. They settle. They settle for the first job offer. They accept a lower salary because they don't want to upset the hiring manager. They don't apply for the promotion because they are terrified of the spotlight, the amygdala response. Let's put a dollar figure on this. If a person fails to negotiate their starting salary by just $5,000, and that gap compounds over a 40-year career with raises based on that lower baseline, the lifetime loss is over $600,000. That is the bad parenting tax. It is a tax on confidence. Let's compare two timelines. Timeline A, the secure child. This person made a mistake at age 7. Their parents said, "It's okay, let's fix it." They learned that failure is part of learning. Timeline B, the wounded child. This person made a mistake at age 7. Their parent yelled, "What is wrong with you?" They learned that failure is a threat to their existence. Fast forward to age 30. Person A starts a business. They launch a product. It fails. They pivot and try again. They eventually build wealth. Person B has a brilliant business idea, but they never launch it. They are paralyzed by perfectionism. We often mistake perfectionism for high standards. It is not. Perfectionism is a shield. It is a defense mechanism developed by children who were only praised for their achievements, not their effort. They believe, if I am perfect, I won't be criticized. But in the economy, perfection is the enemy of execution. Person B spends years polishing a project that never sees the light of day. The opportunity cost? Millions in potential revenue, lost to the ghost of a critical parent. But the financial cost is just numbers. You can always make more money. You can win the lottery. You can get lucky. There is a cost that is far heavier than a paycheck. It is the cost of never feeling at home in your own life. It is the cost of loneliness that no amount of success can cure. We are moving into the relational debt, and this is where the cycle threatens to continue forever. If the biological cost is the hardware, and the economic cost is the software, then the relational cost is the operating system. And for the child of toxic parenting, that operating system is corrupted. We call this the inheritance. You don't just inherit your parents' eye color or their height, you inherit their trauma. You inherit their way of seeing the world. Psychologists estimate that over 40% of the population has an insecure attachment style. This is the direct blueprint of how you bonded or failed to bond with your caregivers. Let's look at the anxious adult. This was the child whose parent was inconsistent, sometimes loving, sometimes cold. As an adult, they are starving for connection. They become the partner who sends 10 texts in a row, terrified of abandonment. They chase relationships that are wrong for them because any attention feels like love. The cost? Years of their life spent in tumultuous, draining relationships, the emotional toll of high-conflict divorces, the inability to focus on their own growth because they are consumed by relationship drama. Now, look at the avoidant adult. This was the child whose needs were rejected. They learned, I must handle everything myself. As adults, they are hyper-independent. They push love away. They might be successful in their career, part 2, but they go home to an empty house, or a house full of people they cannot connect with. The cost here is intimacy. These bad parenting patterns act like an invisible wall. The child wants to connect, but their body screams that connection is dangerous. And here is the tragedy of the loop. If this debt is not paid, if this trauma is not healed, it gets passed down. The wounded child becomes the wounded parent. The perfectionist father pushes his son too hard, creating a new, anxious generation. The neglected mother doesn't know how to soothe her daughter, creating a new, avoidant generation. This is why we see families where bad luck seems to run in the bloodline. It's not luck, it's unhealed history repeating itself. The weight of this is heavy.
I know. Many of you watching this might be realizing for the first time that the struggles you face today, the anxiety, the failed relationships, the career stagnation, are not because you are broken. They are because you are paying a debt you didn't sign up for. But I told you at the beginning, this is an audit, not a death sentence. The amazing thing about the brain and the human spirit is that it is not fixed in stone. The invoice can be canceled. The pattern can be interrupted. There is a way out, and it starts with a concept called neuroplasticity and a practice called reparenting.
Here's the good news, the best news you will hear today. Your brain is plastic. That amygdala that is enlarged, it can shrink. That hippocampus that was stunted, it can grow. The cost of bad parenting is high, but the power of self-correction is infinite. You can stop the debt right now for yourself and for your children. The concept of the good enough parent. You do not need to be perfect to break the cycle. Donald Winnicott, a famous pediatrician, introduced the term good enough mother. He found that children don't need endless perfection. They need repair. If you're a parent watching this, terrified that you've messed up your kids, listen to me. The difference between a traumatized child and a resilient child is not the absence of conflict, it is the presence of repair. Did you lose your temper? Did you ignore them? Did you make a mistake? Go to them, get on their eye level and say, "I'm sorry. I was wrong. I am working on being better." That interaction, that moment of humility, it rewires their brain. It teaches them that they are worthy of an apology. It teaches them that relationships can survive conflict. That is the antidote to the poison. Reparenting yourself. If you're the adult child of bad parenting and you don't have parents who will apologize, you must do it for yourself. This is called reparenting. It means becoming the wise, kind, protective caregiver to your own inner child that you never had. When you fail at work and that inner voice says, "You're stupid," you catch it. You interrupt the pattern. You say, "No, I'm learning. I am safe." Every time you choose self-compassion over self-criticism, you are literally building new neural pathways. You are paying off the debt. Conclusion. The cost of bad parenting is a tragedy. It steals potential, it steals joy, it steals wealth. But the investment in healing, it yields the highest return of all. You have the power to change the timeline. You can be the cycle breaker in your family tree. You can be the one who says, "The trauma stops with me." It is not easy. It is the hardest work you will ever do. But looking at the future of your children and the peace of your own heart, tell me, isn't it worth the price? If you want to start this process, if you want to know exactly how to repair a rupture with your child or how to identify your own attachment style so you don't pass it down, I have created a deep dive video on the 4 styles of parenting and how to change yours. Click the video on the screen right now. It is the practical guide to everything we just discussed. Don't let the debt grow for one more day. Click it, and I'll see you there.